All right, so I thought I'd just start by talking to you a bit about my philosophy of what we do in this class and how do we learn to prepare a song. And everything I do is based on the belief that acting is an act of creation and not an act of recreation. What do I mean by that? There are two ways of preparing really any kind of performance, whether it's a song, whether it's a scene, whether it's something, a piano etude, whatever you talk about. The first is you work on it really hard by yourself, with a teacher, with your coach, with your director, with your choreographer, and you work on it and you explore it and you discover things about the piece and you figure out the best way to do the song. Once you've discovered the best way to do the song, your job from then on out is to do it that way every time. When you do it in class, when you do it for your teacher, 8 shows a week, you get up, you do it that way because that's the best way. That's what you worked out. That's not what I like to do. That way can lead to very impressive performances, very effective, very polished, very slick, technically proficient. If you do something over and over again, you're going to get pretty good at it, right? However, it leads to what the great director and writer Peter Brook called dead theater. Dead theater is actors who are probably very, very excellent, who have worked very hard, being on stage with each other and trying to recreate something that once came naturally. They're trying to recapture some little moment of magic that happened instantaneously, spontaneously, in a rehearsal studio maybe 4 months ago. And they're trying to do that again. That's not life. That's not life. What we want is no less than bringing life, real life, onto stage as much as we possibly can. And in real life, we don't prepare, generally, right? We don't know what we're going to say next. We certainly don't know what our scene partner is going to say next. We have to be in the moment. We know what we want. We know who we are. We know where we are. But we don't know what's actually happening next. Yes, sometimes if you have like a really difficult conversation you have to have with someone, sometimes you'll rehearse it at home and like try to get it, oh, these are the points I gotta make. But generally, no, that's not what we're doing. That's what we try to do in this class, is to find a way to have it be new and have it feel like an act of creation every time. How do you do that? Because you as actors, obviously you come into a room, you know what your lines are, I hope. You know what your notes are, you know what you're gonna say, you know how the story ends, you know what your scene partner is gonna say back to you. How do you basically trick yourself into not knowing? And the answer is a lot of preparation, a lot of creativity, a lot of imagination, and a lot of work on details, details, details. That is what we're concentrating on this semester. And by preparation, what I mean is knowing your character so well, knowing that character's situation, where you are, who you're talking to, what do you want, how are you going to get it, what are you going to do if you don't get it. You know all of these things so deeply that no choice that you make in the moment, no instinct that you decide to follow can possibly be wrong. So that anything that comes to you is right, whether you've done it that way before or not. Okay, but how do you practice that? Does that mean we don't practice anything because you don't want to do the same thing twice? No, of course not. You practice, you rehearse, and you notice when something works. If you notice, oh, I took a step forward on that line and it felt great. That felt totally great. Awesome. Make a note of it. Put that deep, deep, deep down in yourself and know that if that feels right the next time I do it, that's absolutely a great option for me. I can totally take a step there. You may end up taking a step there every single time. If it feels right, every single time. What we don't want is, I take a step here because that's the way I decided was the right way to do it. That is the definition of dead theater. And I think at this point you've all experienced probably a little of both. You know when something feels, it just happened and you might like, did I do that? I don't know, what did I just do there? And your director's like, you did a step and it was actually really nice and let's remember that for next time. Yeah. And I think you've probably all been in a situation, whether you've been asked to or whether you just ended up doing it that way. We're like, oh, this is the place where I raise my hand. And you do it, and sometimes it feels okay, and sometimes it's like, what's my hand doing up there? Yes, I'm sure your other teachers have talked to you about this sort of thing also. Quickest way to dead theater is to do something because it worked in the past. It may work again. Absolutely write things down. And I will say, one exception or one genre in which we might go a little closer towards the same thing every time is comedy. Like a real comedy number. Comedy is so technical to the point where if you turn your head on the word, you're going to get a laugh. If you turn your head before the word, you're not going to get a laugh. And that's the kind of thing hopefully you discover with an audience and with a coach. That kind of thing, yes, you need to turn your head on the word so you get your laugh. But anything, we're probably not going to be doing a lot of that kind of work in here. What we're going to look for is how to ground yourself in so much detail that nothing you do in the moment can be wrong. And that you leave open the possibility of surprising yourself. That's what I love as a performer also. It's when something happens and I go with it and I'm like, wow, I've never done that before. That was amazing. I think that was great. May never happen again, but that was fantastic. Always leaving the possibility for surprising yourself. I'm learning German right now. And in English, we say to act. We are acting, which I love, right? If you're not acting, if you're not taking action, you're not acting. If you're sitting there feeling your feelings, that's not acting. You are taking action, you are trying to do something. Active. But in German, the word is spielen, which is to play. We play. I want us to be playing in here. Feel free to do anything, to try anything. I went to a party this summer on Long Island, and I got there early, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I stopped in this gift shop. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something cute in here. Turned out to be one of those horrifying stores where all they said are like little plaques with like little inscriptions on them, mostly about alcohol, right? I was like, it's 1 o'clock, happy Wine's Day. I'm like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. But they had one, and it was super cheesy, and then I thought, you know what, there's something to that. It said, I'm sure you've heard this, what would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? I'm like, that's actually kind of powerful. What would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? There's a lot of stuff I would do if I knew I couldn't fail. You can't fail in this class, I'm here to tell you. There's no failing in this class. There's no failing in any class, in any rehearsal. Everything, if something goes wrong, quote unquote, if something doesn't go the way you were hoping it would go, that's just information. You know something more. You tried it a certain way, it didn't make sense. All right, well, we'll do something else. You went for a high note, it cracked. Okay, now you know that you have to prepare that better or differently. You went for a double and you fell over. Okay, why? Well, hopefully your teacher was watching and your teacher can say because your head was crooked and you didn't prepare and of course you fell over. That's what we're here for. There is no such thing as a failure. If something doesn't go the way you want it to go, now you know. And you try something different. And the next time you make a different mistake. Not a mistake. You do something else different. No mistakes, no failure. The only failure is if you don't know your lyrics. Or your notes. Or the piano accompaniment. Then I'm going to be annoyed.